we've got print preview open. Let's start taking a look at some of the settings that you can control when the document is printed. The orientation, the scaling of the content on the pages, where the margins land, where your content shows up on each page. Let's take a look at some of those settings right here. So I've identified a couple of changes that I want to make to this document as I go to print it. The first one, and it's really staring me in the face, is that chart. The chart should either completely be on page 1 or it should be completely on page 2. One or the other. Don't split it, especially not like this. That's just a little bit of a sliver of the chart, right? I go to page 2 and it's cut off. At least it's not cut off like right there, right? So this is a small tweak, but it's going to be exposed even more as we start making some other changes. So if I go back out to the document, just back out to the normal spreadsheet or worksheet view, I'm going to hit that little arrow. I'm just going to select the chart and I'm going to push it on over here. Now, anytime you go File, Print, and then go back out to the worksheet, you then get these little dashed lines that show up on your worksheet. That dashed line represents the page break, where it's going to print from one page to the next. Take a look at this. If I scroll out here, zoom out here, there's a line right there, there's a line right there, and right there, and right there. These are all page breaks. So this would essentially be a page right up to those lines, and then this would be a page right up to those lines. So that allows me, once I've gone into File, Print, and then back out to the worksheet view, it allows me to see where the actual pages are going to be at. So I could do this. I could move that over and kind of eyeball it and center it between those two lines. Okay? Now I could also do this. I grab it and drag it down. And once again, I'm just kind of eyeballing it here. There's other ways for us to do this. I'm just going to eyeball, and that feels like it's pretty centered within that page. Let's take a look at what this did. Just that small little tweak. I'll go back to File, Print. Oh, now, because I had the chart selected when I went back to File, Print, it's now only printing the chart. So that's some great information. I did that by accident. If you have the chart selected and you go File, Print, you only print the chart. So let me get back out. I'm going to click into just a cell. All right, chart's no longer selected. I'll go back to File, Print. And now I've got my 2 pages. That chart is no longer split onto page 1. If I go to page 2, there's my nice little chart. Okay. Now, let's take this a step further. I want to manipulate the scaling of the page. I want to make the chart larger. I want to make page 1. I want to make this content larger, right? But in portrait mode, right, where you got the taller page, which is what we're looking at here, right? It's not going to give me a lot of room left and right to be able to make that larger. So before I manipulate the scaling, I'm going to change the page orientation. So back into my print settings on the left, I'll go down to orientation, currently set to portrait. I'm going to toggle that to landscape. All right, there we go. So now I've got much more space over here on the right-hand side of the page. You can see the chart is starting to peekaboo, starting to get back in there again. I need to fix that. So let's try this out. Got my orientation there. If I go back to the normal worksheet view, you can see that our pages have changed shape because the orientation has changed. There's my page there. There's my page there. If you can see those little gray dotted lines, then you can see that the chart kind of split the difference in there. So let's grab that chart. Let's shuffle it over here. I'm then going to click into an empty cell, someplace. Go back to File and Print. And now that chart's no longer on that page. I can go to page 2, and there's that nice chart. But let's try adjusting the scaling now. Oops, let's go back to File, Print. I'm going to go into my print settings. I'm going to go down to no scaling currently, meaning it's just at 100%. Whatever you got, that's what you got. Let's say no scaling. And I'm going to go down to custom scaling options. Inside this window, this is the page setup window, we've got scaling. And you really got 2 ways to scale a page. You can do it by a percentage, adjust to, or you can do it by a fit. Meaning I can say, I want you to fit all the content. Maybe it spans 10 pages. let's put it all on one page. Okay? And I can use that here. The scaling, you can adjust smaller or larger. The fit to, it will only shrink. It will not increase the amount of pages. It will only shrink. So I'm going to use the adjust to because I want to make it a little bit bigger. I want to use some of that empty white space there. So I'm going to say right now it's 100%. And I'm just going to pull a number out of my head. I'm going to say 125. So an extra 25%. And that's looking pretty good. I'm starting to fill up more of that page, starting to make this a little bit larger. Now this is all preference. This is all preference. Let's get back into custom scaling. You got to determine what looks best for yours. What are the numbers going to be if you're going to scale it, even if you're going to scale it, right? If you don't, then forget it. Let's say 135. Let's add another 10 there. And I think that's looking pretty good, at least as far as the spreadsheet's concerned. This one here, not so good. Starting to look like that chart again, right? Now I got 5 pages. Oof. All right, there's the rest of my smart art. Oh, there's half of my chart. There's nothing there. That's weird. And then I got page 5, the second half of the chart. That's odd. What's going on? So these little things, it's starting to expose some other settings that we can get into here, right? We've changed the orientation, started to scale it up just to make it more presentable and utilize more of that page, okay? Or even less of the page if you need to scale it down for your data, whatever that might be. But as you start messing with those scaling options, it's starting to expose some other inadequacies in our setup, in our layout of our data. So let's make another tweak here. I'm going to go back into my print. Actually, let's go back to the document, just see what it looks like. You can see we got that split there. Maybe I can move, oops, let's make sure I grab the border of that guy, of the smart art. I can move that down to its own page. I can put the chart up here on its own page. And let's go look at it again. And I'm using those dashed lines again to kind of eyeball it and see. Ooh, I had the chart selected. Let's click off, file, print. All right, 3 pages. That's sounding pretty good. So there's my nice smart art, and there's my nice chart. That's looking pretty slick. All right. Just use those guidelines as you're moving the data around. Make sure you do file, print. You get your little print lines out there. We're going to take a look at another view where you can get kind of a similar setup here, but just really simply file, print. You can mess with your settings in there. Scaling, orientation, the margins, something we'll take a look at. And then once you get back out, you got these nice little gray lines to help you identify where the pages are located at. So try this out. I want to keep the video short. Try this out right here. See how your data looks. Make any necessary tweaks that you need. And then we'll jump in and take a look at some more settings.